Have you ever noticed how one small question can completely change the way people look at you? Sometimes it's not your actions that shape your image, it's your answers. A single response can open doors, and at the same time, it can close your privacy, your peace, and even your confidence without you realizing it. In life, not every question comes from understanding. Some come from curiosity, some come from comparison, and some come from silent judgment. And in a world where people observe more than they speak, your words often travel further than you expect. That's why learning when to speak and when to stay silent is not just communication, it's wisdom. Today, you're going to discover something powerful. 9 questions you should be careful about answering. Not because you should hide your truth, but because you should protect your peace, your energy, and your direction in life. Because sometimes, the smartest answer is not what you say. It's what you choose not to reveal. Secret 1. How much money do you make? This question may sound simple at first. It feels like a normal part of conversation, something people ask casually without thinking too deeply about it. But if you look closer, you will realize it is one of the most sensitive and dangerous questions you can answer without caution. Because the moment you respond, you are not just sharing a number, you are revealing how people will see you from that point forward. Your income, whether you like it or not, becomes a label in their mind. And once that label is created, it is very hard to change. If your income is lower than they expected, some people may quietly lose respect for you. They may not say it directly, but their behavior can change. They might take you less seriously, value your opinions less, or treat you as if you are less capable. On the other hand, if your income is higher, a different kind of problem begins. People may become jealous. They may compare themselves to you. They may feel insecure, and that insecurity can turn into negative energy, hidden competition, or even silent resentment. In both situations, the outcome is not positive. You either lose respect or attract jealousy. That is why this question is not as harmless as it seems. The deeper problem is this. Once people start measuring you based on money, they stop seeing who you truly are. They stop seeing your effort, your struggles, your late nights, your discipline, and your growth. All of that disappears behind a single number. You are no longer seen as a person with a story. You are seen as a financial status. And that is a very limited and unfair way to be judged. Your character, your values, your mindset, and your journey matter far more than your income. But most people will ignore those things once they have a number to focus on. A wise person understands this reality. They know that not every question deserves a direct answer. They know that privacy is not secrecy, it is protection. You are not being rude by choosing not to share your financial details. You are being smart. You are protecting your peace, your relationships, and your personal boundaries. Because once information is shared, you cannot take it back. It spreads, it gets discussed, and sometimes it gets used against you in ways you never expected. Instead of answering directly, a calm and confident approach works best. You can smile, keep your tone light, and gently change the subject. You don't need to feel guilty or uncomfortable. Remember, confidence is not only about what you say, it is also about what you choose not to say. When you stay relaxed and in control, people will respect your boundaries even if they don't fully understand them. Real power is not in showing how much you earn. Real power is in controlling who gets access to that information. It is in understanding that your value as a person is not defined by your income. It is defined by your mindset, your discipline, your actions, and your character. Money is just one part of your life, it is not your identity. So the next time someone asks you, "How much money do you make?" Pause for a moment, think carefully, and remember, you don't owe anyone that answer. Sometimes, the smartest response is silence, a simple smile, and a smooth change of direction. Because protecting your value is more important than satisfying someone's curiosity. Secret 2. What are your future plans? This question feels warm, polite, and supportive. It sounds like the other person genuinely cares about your life and your direction. People ask it with a smile, with curiosity, and sometimes even with excitement, as if they are truly interested in seeing you grow. But behind this simple question, there is a deeper reality that many people don't notice. Not everyone who asks about your future is asking with pure intentions. Some people are simply curious. Some are comparing your path with their own. And others, whether consciously or not, are waiting to see if you will fail. That is why this question, though friendly on the surface, requires wisdom before you answer it. When you start sharing your plans too early, something subtle begins to change. At first, you feel excited. You talk about your dreams, your goals, your next big step. It feels good to express it. But then the reactions come. Some people respond with doubt. They question your ability. They ask, "Are you sure? Or is that realistic?" Others give unsolicited advice, often based on their own fears and limitations. And even if they don't say anything negative directly, their tone, their expressions, or their silence can slowly affect you. Bit by bit, your confidence starts to weaken. The dream that once felt clear and powerful now feels uncertain and fragile. This is the danger of sharing your future plans with the wrong people. It is not always about what they say. It is about how their energy influences your mindset. Dreams are sensitive in the early stages. They need protection, not exposure. When you expose them too soon, you invite opinions, doubts, and expectations that can distract you from your original vision. And before you realize it, you are no longer focused on building your dream. You are busy explaining it, defending it, or questioning it. That is why strong and focused people choose a different path. They move in silence. They understand that not everything needs to be announced. They don't feel the need to explain their next move to everyone around them. Instead, they keep their vision clear in their own mind and take action quietly. They work consistently, day by day, without seeking approval or validation. They don't rush to talk. They focus on doing. And this creates a powerful advantage. Because while others are talking about their plans, they are already building theirs. There is also another important truth to understand. When you speak less about your plans, you protect your energy. Every time you talk about your future, you use emotional energy. You feel like you are making progress just by speaking about it. But in reality, no real action has been taken yet. Silence, on the other hand, keeps your energy focused. It keeps your attention on what truly matters. Execution. And execution is what turns dreams into reality. One day, after all the quiet effort, something remarkable happens. Results begin to appear. Progress becomes visible. Success starts to show itself. And at that moment, you don't need to explain anything anymore. You don't need to convince anyone. Your results speak for you. They tell your story better than any words ever could. People who once doubted may become surprised. People who once questioned may become curious again. But this time, the situation is different. You are no longer sharing plans. You are showing proof. So the next time someone asks you, "What are your future plans?" take a moment before answering. You don't need to reveal everything. You can keep it simple, general, or even change the direction of the conversation. Because your future is not a topic for public discussion, it is a project under construction. Protect it. Build it quietly. Stay consistent. And remember, in the end, it is not your plans that matter most. It is your results. Secret 3. Why are you still single? This question is deeply personal, yet people often ask it as if it is casual conversation. Sometimes it comes with a smile, sometimes as a joke, and sometimes with genuine curiosity. But no matter how it is asked, it carries a hidden weight. Because behind this simple question there is often judgment, expectation, and pressure. It makes you feel like you need to explain yourself, like there is something missing in your life that needs to be fixed. And over time, if you hear it often, it can slowly affect how you see yourself. The truth is, your relationship status is not a problem that needs solving. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is simply a reflection of your personal journey, your choices, your priorities, and your timing. But many people don't see it that way. When you answer this question, they may begin to create their own story about you. Some may assume you are lonely. Others may think you are not good enough to find someone. Some may believe you are too selective or difficult. And the most important thing to understand is this: these assumptions are not based on your reality, but on their limited perspective. When you try to explain yourself, you give power to those assumptions. You begin to justify your life as if you need approval. You may say you are focusing on your career, or waiting for the right person, or healing from the past. And while all of these reasons are valid, the deeper question is, why do you feel the need to explain at all? Your life is not a public report that needs to be presented. Your choices are not decisions that require validation from others. The more you explain, the more you invite opinions, advice, and sometimes even criticism that you never asked for. A wise person understands the value of boundaries. They know that not every question deserves a detailed answer, especially when it touches something as personal as relationships. Because your emotional life, your experiences, your standards, and your growth are deeply private. Not everyone has earned the right to understand that part of you. Protecting your personal life is not about being distant. It is about being selective. It is about choosing peace over unnecessary conversations that add no value to your life. There is also another important truth that many people forget. Life is not a race. There is no universal timeline that says you must be in a relationship by a certain age or stage. Everyone moves at their own pace. Some people find love early, some later, and some choose to stay single for their own reasons. None of these paths are right or wrong. They are simply different. The problem begins when society tries to turn personal choices into expectations. And when you start believing those expectations, you begin to feel pressure where there should be none. Your timing is your own. Your journey is your own. And your happiness does not depend on meeting someone else's definition of a complete life. A relationship should add to your life, not define your worth. And being single is not a weakness. It can be a time of growth, self-discovery, and strength. It can be a period where you build yourself, understand yourself, and prepare for something meaningful, if that is what you truly want. So the next time someone asks you, why are you still single? Remember that you don't owe them a detailed explanation. You don't need to defend your choices or justify your life. A calm smile, a simple response, or even a gentle change of topic is more than enough. Because true confidence is not in explaining yourself to everyone. It is in knowing your value without needing their approval. Protect your peace, respect your journey, and move forward with quiet confidence. Secret 4. What problems are you facing right now? This question is one of the most deceptive ones you will ever hear. On the surface, it feels warm and caring. It sounds like someone is checking on you, like they genuinely want to understand what you are going through. It gives the impression of support, of concern, of emotional connection. And because of that, it is very easy to open up without thinking twice. But here is the reality that many people learn the hard way. Not everyone who asks about your problems truly wants to help you. Sometimes the question is not about support at all. Sometimes it is about curiosity, information, or even hidden intention. There are people who listen to your struggles, not to understand you, but to talk about you later. They may sit in front of you with a serious face, nodding, showing sympathy, making you feel safe. But once the conversation is over, your personal problems become stories in other conversations. Your pain becomes something they share with others, sometimes in a way that changes the truth, sometimes in a way that makes it sound more dramatic than it really is. And without realizing it, you have given someone access to a part of your life that was never meant to be public. There are also people who collect information about others without any real intention of helping. They listen carefully, ask follow-up questions, and remember details, not because they care deeply, but because they are curious. Your struggles become something interesting to them, something they observe, something they compare with their own life or with others. And in some cases, there are people who go even further. They use your weaknesses against you. What you shared in a moment of honesty can later be used to judge you, criticize you, or even manipulate you in subtle ways. This is why being open without awareness can sometimes create more problems instead of solving them. That is why you must be careful about who you share your struggles with. Not everyone deserves to know what you are going through. Not every conversation requires complete honesty. There is a difference between being open and being unprotected. Real strength is not about telling everyone everything. It is about knowing who deserves your truth. It is about understanding that your problems are a sensitive part of your life, and they should be shared only with people who have proven that they can handle that responsibility. The right people in your life are different. They listen without judgment. They respect your privacy. They don't use your pain as entertainment or gossip. They don't make you feel small for your struggles. Instead, they support you, guide you, and stand with you without exposing you. These are the people you can trust. These are the people who deserve your honesty. But such people are rare, and that is why you must choose carefully. With others, silence is often the best choice. Not because you are hiding, but because you are protecting yourself. You don't need to explain your struggles to everyone who asks. You don't need to go into detail just to appear open or honest. A simple response, a general answer, or even a gentle shift in the conversation is enough. Because your problems are not public information. They are personal experiences that require the right environment and the right people to be shared safely. At the end of the day, your peace matters more than someone's curiosity. Your emotional safety matters more than someone's temporary interest. And your story deserves to be handled with care, not spread without control. So the next time someone asks you, "What problems are you facing right now?" Pause for a moment. Think about who is asking and why. And remember, you have the right to choose what you share and what you keep to yourself. Because protecting your truth is not weakness, it is wisdom. Secret 5. How did you achieve this? From the wrong people. Success has a quiet way of changing how people look at you. The moment you start doing well, the moment your results become visible, attention begins to grow. People who once ignored you may suddenly become curious. Conversations change. Questions appear. And one of the most common questions you will hear is, "How did you do it?" Or "What's your secret?" On the surface, it sounds like admiration. It feels like respect. It feels like people are inspired by your journey and want to learn from you. And sometimes, that is true. But not always. Because not everyone who asks this question is asking with the intention to grow. Some people ask because they want to copy your path without understanding your struggle. They see your result, but they don't see your discipline, your sacrifices, your failures, and your patience. They want the outcome, not the process. And when you explain everything in detail, they may try to imitate you without truly respecting the work behind it. Others ask because they want to compete with you. They are not inspired, they are challenged. They want to measure themselves against you, to see if they can reach your level or go beyond it. And then there are those who ask with a different intention altogether. They are looking for your weakness. They are trying to understand how you think, how you work, and where you might be vulnerable. Not to support you, but to use that knowledge for their own benefit. This is why you must be careful when sharing your success story. Because when you give away too much, you don't just share information, you give away your advantage. Your journey, your methods, your habits, your mindset, these are all valuable. They are the result of time, effort, and personal growth. You didn't just wake up one day and achieve success. You built it step by step. You stayed consistent when it was difficult. You sacrificed comfort for progress. You learned from your mistakes and kept moving forward when others gave up. That process is not something you owe to everyone who asks. There is a difference between being kind and being unprotected. You can be polite, respectful, and encouraging without revealing everything. You can give general advice, share broad ideas, and still keep your deeper strategies private. Because not everyone has earned the right to access that level of detail in your life. And that is not arrogance, it is awareness. It is understanding that your journey is personal, and not everyone values it the same way you do. Another important thing to remember is that when you talk too much about how you achieved something, you may unintentionally reduce its value. People may think it was easy, they may underestimate the effort it took, or they may believe they can achieve the same result without putting in the same level of work. This not only creates misunderstanding, but can also invite unnecessary comparison and competition into your life. A wise person knows how to balance openness with protection. They don't become secretive or distant, but they also don't expose everything. They observe who is asking, how they are asking, and why they are asking. They share with those who are genuinely interested in learning and growing, and they stay reserved with those who are not. Because energy, knowledge, and experience are all valuable resources, and like any valuable resource, they should be given carefully. So the next time someone asks you, "How did you achieve this?" take a moment to think. You don't need to explain every step. You don't need to reveal every detail. You can acknowledge their curiosity, give a simple answer, and move forward. Because your success is not just about what you did. It is about who you became in the process. And not everyone deserves full access to that transformation. Be kind, but be selective. Be open, but be aware. And never forget, your journey is valuable, and it is yours to protect. Secret 6. What do you think about them? This question may seem harmless, but in reality, it is one of the most common traps people fall into without even realizing it. It often appears in casual conversations, sometimes in a friendly tone, sometimes in a curious way, and sometimes even as a test. Someone mentions another person and then asks you for your opinion, as if they simply want to hear your thoughts. It feels natural to respond. It feels like a normal part of communication. But what many people fail to understand is that this simple question can quietly damage your reputation if you are not careful. When you speak about others, people are not just listening to what you say about that person, they are observing you. They are judging your mindset, your attitude, and your character. Every word you use becomes a reflection of who you are. If you speak negatively, complain, or criticize, it creates an impression that goes beyond that single conversation. Even if your words are true, the way you express them matters. Because in that moment, people are not thinking, they are right about that person. Instead, they are thinking, this is how this person talks about others. The situation becomes even more dangerous when the person listening agrees with you. They may nod, smile, and even add their own negative comments. It feels like you are both on the same side. It creates a false sense of trust and connection. But the reality is very different. The same person who agrees with you today may question your character tomorrow. They may think, if this person can speak like this about someone else, what do they say about me when I am not around? And that single thought is enough to break trust. Once trust is damaged, it is very difficult to rebuild. Gossip has a silent cost. It may feel light and harmless in the moment, but it leaves a lasting impact on how people perceive you. It can make you appear negative, unprofessional, or unreliable. Even if you are none of those things, your words can create that image. And in many situations, perception becomes reality. People start to keep their distance. They become more careful around you. They share less. And without realizing it, you lose something very important: respect. A strong and self-aware person understands this. They do not feel the need to give an opinion on everything. They do not get involved in conversations that revolve around judging others. They recognize that not every question deserves an answer, especially when it involves speaking about someone who is not present. Instead of reacting, they pause. Instead of speaking, they choose silence or a neutral response. This is not weakness. It is control. It is the ability to protect your integrity in situations where it could easily be compromised. There is also a deeper level of discipline in choosing not to speak unnecessarily. It shows emotional maturity. It shows that you value your reputation more than a temporary moment of agreement or attention. Because in the end, words cannot be taken back. Once spoken, they travel, they change, and sometimes they return in ways you never expected. So the next time someone asks you, "What do you think about them?" take a moment before you answer. Ask yourself if your response will build your character or damage it. You don't need to criticize to be honest, and you don't need to participate in gossip to be part of a conversation. Sometimes, the strongest response is a calm, neutral answer, or even a quiet shift in the topic. Because silence, in many situations, is safer than regret. Secret 7. Can you do me a favor when it feels wrong? At first, this question sounds harmless. In fact, it often sounds kind and normal, like a simple request between people. Helping others is generally seen as a positive thing, and saying yes can make you feel useful, appreciated, and connected. But the truth is, not every favor is good, and not every request comes from a place of genuine need. Some favors are subtle traps, carefully disguised as simple help. And if you are not aware, you can slowly find yourself being used without even realizing it. There are people who ask for favors not because they truly need help, but because they recognize something in you: your kindness, your reliability, your willingness to say yes. And instead of respecting that, they take advantage of it. They begin with small requests, things that seem easy to do. Then, over time, those requests become more frequent, more demanding, and sometimes even unreasonable. What started as a simple favor slowly turns into a pattern where you are expected to be available whenever they need something. And the more you say yes, the harder it becomes to say no. This is where the real problem begins. When you agree to everything, people stop seeing your help as generosity. They start seeing it as your responsibility. Your time becomes something they feel entitled to. Your energy becomes something they assume they can use. And without noticing, you begin to lose something important: respect. Because respect is not just about being kind, it is also about having boundaries. When there are no boundaries, people may not take you seriously. They may see you as predictable, always available, and easy to control. Being constantly available does not make you powerful, it makes you vulnerable. It puts you in a position where your own priorities are pushed aside for others. You start saying yes even when you feel uncomfortable. You start helping even when it drains your energy. And over time, this creates frustration, stress, and even resentment. Not because helping is wrong, but because you are helping without balance, without awareness, and without protecting yourself. A truly strong and confident person understands this difference. They know that saying no is not a sign of weakness or selfishness. It is a sign of self-respect. But the way they say no is important. It is not done with anger, frustration, or guilt. It is done calmly, clearly, and confidently. They don't over-explain or apologize unnecessarily. They simply recognize their limits and communicate them with respect. This kind of response does not damage relationships. In fact, it often strengthens them, because it shows that you value yourself and your time. Your time, your energy, and your focus are some of the most valuable resources you have. Once they are used, they cannot be taken back. That is why you must be careful about where you invest them. Not every request deserves your attention, and not every person deserves your effort. Choosing where to say yes and where to say no is one of the most important skills you can develop in life. It allows you to stay focused on your goals, protect your mental and emotional well-being, and maintain healthy, respectful relationships. So the next time someone asks you, "Can you do me a favor?" Pause for a moment. Listen not just to the words, but to how it makes you feel. If something feels wrong, if it feels forced, or if it goes against your priorities, trust that feeling. You don't need to say yes just to be liked. You don't need to help at the cost of your own peace. Because true strength is not in always being available, it is in knowing when to step back, protect your boundaries, and choose yourself with confidence. Secret 8. Why did you fail? Failure is a natural part of life. Every person, no matter how successful they appear today, has faced moments where things did not go as planned. It is through failure that people learn, grow, and become stronger. But while failure itself is not dangerous, constantly explaining your failure to the wrong people can be. Because not everyone listens with the intention to understand your journey. Some people listen with the intention to judge, to compare, or to feel better about themselves. And that is where the real problem begins. When someone asks, "Why did you fail?" it may sound like a genuine question. It may feel like they are interested in your experience or that they want to support you. But in many cases, the focus is not on your growth. It is on your mistake. Instead of seeing your effort, your courage, and your willingness to try, they focus only on the result that did not work. They analyze your decisions, point out what you did wrong, and sometimes even make you feel like your failure defines you. And the more you explain, the more you place yourself in a position where you are defending your past instead of building your future. There is also a deeper psychological effect that many people don't notice. When you keep talking about your failure again and again, you relive it. You go back to that moment mentally, repeating the same story, the same emotions, and the same doubts. Over time, this repetition can weaken your confidence. What was once just a learning experience slowly starts to feel like a personal weakness. You begin to question your abilities. You start wondering if you made the right choices, if you are capable enough, or if you will fail again. This is not because the failure was too big, but because you kept giving it too much attention in the wrong environment. A wise person understands the importance of protecting their story. Your experiences, both good and bad, are part of your personal journey. They are not something you need to explain to everyone who asks. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your struggles in detail. Sharing your story with the wrong people can turn a powerful lesson into a source of doubt. That is why it is important to be selective. Share your experiences with those who genuinely support you, who focus on your growth, and who respect your journey. With others, it is perfectly okay to keep things simple or even avoid the conversation. You do not owe everyone an explanation for what went wrong in your life. Your responsibility is not to justify your past, it is to improve your future. Instead of spending your energy explaining failure, use that energy to learn from it. Understand what went wrong, take responsibility where needed, and make the necessary changes. Then move forward with clarity and focus. Because growth does not come from repeating the story of failure, it comes from applying the lessons it teaches. The most important thing to remember is that your comeback matters more than your explanation. People may ask questions, they may have opinions, and they may form their own judgments. But none of that defines you. What defines you is what you do next. It is your ability to stand up again, to try again, and to move forward with more wisdom than before. Your actions will always speak louder than your words. So the next time someone asks you, "Why did you fail?" take a moment before you answer. You don't need to go into detail. You don't need to defend yourself. A simple response or even a shift in the conversation is enough, because your focus should not be on explaining your past. It should be on building your future. Protect your confidence. Protect your story, and remember that every failure is just a step towards something greater. Secret 9. Are you happy? This question sounds deep, thoughtful, and meaningful. It feels like something people ask when they want to understand you on a deeper level. On the surface, it seems like a caring question, one that invites honesty and reflection. But the truth is, this question is far more complicated than it appears. Because happiness is not a simple emotion that can be explained in one sentence. It is not something fixed or permanent. It changes with time, with experiences, and even with small moments in your daily life. And most importantly, not everyone who asks this question is truly ready to understand your answer. When someone asks, "Are you happy?" they may not always be asking with genuine concern. Some people ask because they want to compare your life with theirs. They listen to your answer and immediately measure it against their own situation. If you say you are happy, they may question it internally, especially if their life feels different. If you say you are not, they may feel a sense of comfort, knowing they are not alone in their struggles. In both cases, the focus is not really on you, it is on how your answer fits into their perspective. There are also people who may judge your emotions. If you express happiness, they may think you are ignoring reality or pretending. If you express dissatisfaction, they may think you are ungrateful or negative. And then there are those who simply misunderstand. Happiness is a complex and personal experience, shaped by your values, your goals, your challenges, and your growth. But when you try to explain it, people often interpret it through their own mindset, not yours. As a result, your true feelings can be simplified, misinterpreted, or even dismissed. This is why answering this question is not as easy as it seems. Happiness is not a fixed state, it is something that evolves. Some days you feel strong, focused, and content. Other days you feel uncertain, tired, or searching for direction. And both are part of the same journey. You can be working toward your goals and still feel moments of doubt. You can be growing and still feel incomplete. That does not mean you are not happy, it means you are human. But explaining all of this in a single answer is nearly impossible. A wise person understands that not every feeling needs to be explained in detail. You don't need to prove your happiness to anyone. You don't need to justify your emotions or describe your inner world to people who may not truly understand it. Your emotional state is personal. It is something you experience within yourself, not something that needs constant validation from others. Sometimes, the best response is not a long explanation, but a simple, calm presence. A quiet smile can say more than words. It shows that you are at peace in your own way, even if that peace is still growing. Because real happiness is not loud. It does not need to be announced or defended. It exists quietly, in your mindset, in your progress, and in the way you handle life. So the next time someone asks you, "Are you happy?" take a moment. You don't need to analyze it deeply or give a detailed answer. A simple response, or even a gentle smile, is enough. Because true happiness is not something you explain. It is something you feel, something you build over time, and something that speaks for itself without needing words. Final message. Now think about this. Your words are powerful, but your silence is even more powerful. Not every question deserves your answer, and not every person deserves your truth. In life, many people will try to pull information from you, test your emotions, or guide your thoughts in directions that do not serve your growth. But the moment you understand the value of silence, everything begins to change. You stop reacting to every situation and every question, and instead, you start choosing when to speak, what to share, and what to keep within yourself. This is where real control begins, not over others, but over your own mind and energy. When you reach this level of awareness, your life becomes more focused. You waste less time explaining yourself. You feel less pressure to prove your worth. You become more stable in your emotions and more intentional in your actions. People may still ask questions, but you no longer feel forced to answer everything. And because of that, you naturally gain more respect, not by talking more, but by speaking only when it truly matters. In the middle of your journey, remember this message from English Achieve. You don't have to answer everything to prove yourself. You don't need to explain every detail of your life to feel validated. You just need to protect your peace, protect your focus, and move forward with quiet confidence. Growth is not about how much you share with the world, it is about how much you understand within yourself. So subscribe to English Achieve for more powerful lessons that will change your mindset and improve your English. And always remember this simple truth. Stay silent when needed, speak when it truly matters, and never forget that the strongest people are not the ones who talk the most, but the ones who know exactly when to stay quiet.